Well, you guys, I hit a brick wall this week. Was feeling a little burnt out, but I'm slowly finding my way back to myself. Hey everyone, I'm Nick here with Shelf-Esteem, and this is the weekly reading roundup for the week ending June 9th, 2025. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick here with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a composer, now also a booktuber. You can find my music in The Wheel of Time Season 2, His Dark Materials Season 3, and the newly released The Hills of Tanchico, the featured song in The Wheel of Time Season 3 Episode 6, now for your Emmys consideration. As I alluded to at the very beginning of the video, I've been feeling a little burnt out. I've been trying to read a lot, work on this Emmys campaign, work on music projects, do a triathlon for some reason, and it all kind of came to a head at the end of this music conference I spoke and performed to the previous Sunday. I just felt awful. You guys. Like, I don't know I've ever felt like that. It was a weird, dizzy, almost nauseous feeling. And I realized I'm headed for burnout, so I made a kind of probably cryptic post on Monday, I think was the day I took completely off, and I slept all day, and then Tuesday I took a little bit of time as well to myself before I had to co-host a mixer for the Emmys. So I'm slowly kind of dialing everything back so I could kind of push it forward again. But the upshot of that was I did get some reading done this week, so let's talk a little bit about that. If you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe. And now on to the books. I got a chance to pick up and read in the span of a few days, really, the newest Stephen King entry, Never Flinch. Never Flinch. So I gotta say, I have some thoughts on this one. I was very excited to read it, despite it being a Holly story. And I say despite, not because I hate Holly as a character, but, for me, I don't think I'm ever going to love her as much as Stephen does. And that was part of the problem of this book, actually, it was a little too self-aware in how much Stephen loves this character. I mean, through other characters, Stephen King was kind of shoehorning in dialogue that alluded to, like, everybody loves Holly. Why wouldn't everybody love Holly, And it was just, I don't know, it kind of took me out of the story a little bit. I thought the villain was actually fantastic. There were actually, in a sense, there were kind of two villains that were playing off of each other in some respects, and they're kind of two different storylines that are converging. I love the premise of that. I love the idea of it, but the execution kind of fell short for me, you guys. I was not as riveted. I felt like the stakes felt like they could have been higher than they ended up being in the resolution of this book. So I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that he had two storylines, and that's a very difficult balance to strike, and I don't quite feel like Stephen King struck it in this book. I'm not really opposed to some of his kind of political references and stuff like that he's made in previous entries. It's not annoyed me, I guess, as much as it's annoyed other people. But in this one, it really started to kind of gripe on me, because he would kind of bring stuff into a conversation that had nothing to do with anything. It was kind of like shoehorning it in. I felt a lot like that in this book, and I also felt like it didn't feel like Stephen King's traditional voice. I don't know if that makes sense, but he has a very distinct voice that it felt like almost like, I don't know, Stephen King light or something. That's what it felt like to me. Again, I apologize for being the bearer of bad news if you were all excited for this. I always say don't listen to me, like read it for yourself and find out. If you're interested in this book, I highly recommend you check it out. I know some people on the Discord were very excited about this book as well. They really enjoyed it all the way through. So, I think for me, if I was to rank it in the Stephen King catalog, of which I've read like 50-something novels now, I would say it's in the bottom quarter, I think, for me. Now, bottom quarter for Stephen King is still quite good, but bottom quarter nonetheless. So I would give this 3 stars, I think, at best. Let's talk about another book I read, which is kind of a nice turning point to this slightly dour start to the reading week, because I got a chance to finally pick up Tad Williams' Dragonbone Chair and read through some of this in earnest. Now, I'm doing this as a giant read-along with some fantastic booktubers run by Booked and Busy. Philip Chase is is joining us as well. Elliot Brooks, who's one of my favorite booktubers when I first started watching Booktube. So very excited. We're reading one of these a month. So this one is in June. Stone of Farewell will be in July, and then to Green Angel Tower, the behemoth, is going to be in August. So how did I feel about this so far? Well, I read like 400 pages of this rather dense world-building fantasy book. And I gotta say, this is one of the best fantasy debuts I've read so far. In the sense that as a book one of a series. I am absolutely riveted by Tad Williams' writing. I feel like this guy, I read book one of his Otherland series and I felt equally like this. So he is just so good at taking even the more meandering elements of the journey, the hero's journey, you always see in these more traditional fantasy books, and making it riveting. Like, I don't care. It's kind of like Robin Hobb, I don't care if these characters are walking through a forest for hundreds of pages. Doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm enjoying it. I'm along for the ride. There's a lot of information here, a lot of names that I'm having a little bit of trouble kind of wrapping my head around sometimes. But I gotta say, Simon's character's so intriguing. It is a classic coming of age story. Tad Williams' writing is beautiful, and I feel like, even though this came out in the 80s, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's very timeless. The writing, the prose, and also, even the world building and the story, it doesn't feel too tropey, if that makes sense. Now, this was what George R. R. Martin used as one of his partial influences for, writing Game of Thrones. So you get an idea that there's a couple of threads that make you feel like, oh, I could see a little bit of the influence it had on George R. R. Martin, but it feels very much its own thing, I would say, in a sense, it's more different from, Game of Thrones and other fantasy books than Dune is from Star Wars in some respects. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'm loving this so far. I'm planning on finishing this probably this week. So really great reading week. So let's talk a little bit about what I'm going to read. So obviously going to finish this guy. Definitely going to finish this one. I'm very excited about that. I am also going to start Arc 3 of The Wars of Light and Shadow by Jenny Wirtz. I'm going to take my time with this one because we're reading this over a couple months on the soft read along, which you could join in the Discord, in the chat, and also in the FABLE app, which goes chapter by chapter. And I'm going to take my time with this one. This one is a little bit shorter than Ships of Merryher, which was a behemoth. And this one is called Fugitive Prince. So anything I can talk about with this one will probably spoil something from this series, especially for people who haven't read it. I wouldn't want to do that, but I will say that Jenny Wirtz's 11-book magnum opus is divided into several arcs. Book 1 was Arc 1. Book 2 and 3 were Arc 2. This is Book 4, so this will be Arc 3, the beginning of Arc 3. And I'm very excited for a new beginning because the way Warhost of Vastmark ended was with such a bang and kind of subverted expectations a little bit. I'm very excited to see Erathon and Lysier's character, Dakar, and some of the others who have become more intriguing with future entries. Now, Warhost of Vastmark made my book of the month in May, so you get an idea of how excited I am. But I'm going to take my time as always because that's the best way these books should be sipped and savored, I guess you could say. I'm also going to be reading a little bit of, and this one I'm also taking my time with, but I'd kind of fallen off the map with it for a little bit because of all these read-alongs. And I want to make sure I'm dedicating some time to it because a couple reasons. One, it was a wonderful gift from a dear friend of the channel, Joseph the Doan, who had recommended it. And two, I'm freaking loving it. I'm still only like 100 pages through, so I'm going to take my time with it. But this book, Solenoid, by Mircea Cartarescu, about a guy's kind of almost a little bit of autobiographical maybe references, growing up in the 70s and 80s. There's a little bit of the monotony of daily life mixed with some sort of a spiritual profundity, analyzing oneself. Very interesting stuff and some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. It's very off the beaten path for me in terms of what I typically read. And yet there's some similarities of the spiritual search for meaning that's kind of imbued in these pages. Also, it kind of has a depressive lens to it at times. And ordinarily that stuff would kind of bum me out, but it doesn't in this book. It's beautiful. So I'm really enjoying this. So I'm going to continue this, albeit at a very slow pace. The other book I want to start is one that it's kind of devolved into a buddy read. It started off as a soft read along on the channel. I don't know how many people are still reading along, but this is the Matthew Corbett series by Robert McCammon, one of my favorite authors. And I'm reading this alongside Cliff from Cliff's Dark Gems. definitely check out his channel. He specializes in horror and darker novels. And we're reading this historical fiction series about Matthew Corbett, a private investigator who is in the years kind of turn of the 18th century. And how he starts off as a magistrate's clerk and works his way up to being a private investigator. It's got some Sherlock Holmesian vibes. It's also, a historical fiction. It's got little horror elements in a way that Robert McCammon does, with his character work. And I love this series. I mean, I read Mr. Slaughter, I think in April, it must have been. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thought it was dark. It was suitably brooding, but it was also really gave insight into Matthew Corbett's character. So I'm excited to see what book 4, Providence Writer, is going to have in store for Matthew Corbett and also the world at large, and also some of the consequences that left off in book 2 that I think are going to come home to roost. I just get this feeling, it's like the sword of Damocles hangs ever lower above Matthew Corbett's head. So interested to see how that works. And Cliff, man, I'm so excited to read with you again and discuss some stuff. So I'm sure we'll figure out something to discuss either with this book or with maybe a series of these books as we make our way through the 10-book Matthew Corbett series that is now complete if you want to check it out. So I'm leaving the descriptions and stuff below if you want to check those out as well. And if there's time, which probably there won't be, but hey, one can dare to dream anyways. I'll probably read maybe 100 pages of The Mad Ship, book 2 of the Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, which I'm doing as a buddy read with Ellie from Bibbidi Bobbidi Books. We are enjoying this very much. The book 1 was fantastic. I got to actually double check with her if she started Mad Ship yet, but we are going to read that together and probably figure out a discussion at some point. I've been lagging because I've been juggling so much and I'm trying to figure out when to actually do these videos. So I will be deferring with her at some point and then we can figure out when we can discuss that. I'll keep you all posted, as always, in a community post. Let's talk a little bit about the channel itself. So I released one video this week. I had to skip the channel updates, the Reading Roundup this last week. So I apologize for that, you guys, because I was so burnt out. I could barely see. I was literally feeling dizzy. And I managed to pull myself together later on in the week, and I put up an Adaptation News episode 6, which you can check out up here if you'd like. And that one talks about some pretty amazing Dark Tower updates for the TV show that's being developed by Mike Flanagan, and also a certain Joe Abercrombie book that is being adapted for the big screen. So really exciting stuff all around. Definitely check that out if you missed it. We are now at 1,232 subscribers, so inching along, These things I don't really pay that much attention to, but I always like to report to you anyways because it's our channel. We're building this community together. The whole impetus of this channel really was to create a community of fellow book addicts, so that's always the fun of doing these kinds of videos anyways. I want to also thank you all for the outpouring of support when I made that post on Monday about needing to take a couple days off because I was really kind of struggling with that. Like, I don't like to not put up videos at a schedule. I know it sounds funny, but I take it seriously. I know it's not what's that saying? It's important, but it's not serious. Let's put it that way. I take it as a matter of importance because I care deeply about this community, and I really appreciate you all sending messages, DMs, and messaging me on the post and also in the Discord. Really means a lot, you guys. I mean, we've all become friends through this channel, so it means the world that you would care enough to reach out and stuff. So I'm feeling a lot better now, but I will say I'm still not at 100%. So I'm taking my time with the training. I'm taking my time with the reading and doing things hopefully at a more healthy pace. I think that's probably the ticket anyways. Let's talk a little bit about the channel plans. I thought it could be kind of fun to release an interesting kind of video. I want to pick 5 genres and pick one must-read book from every genre. I think that's how I'm thinking of doing it. A little primer of each genre, selling the genre to you, and then talking about one must-read, and not necessarily the classics, not necessarily the timeless ones, but ones that might be like, hey, this is a good entry point into the genre. That could be an interesting thing to do. I might play around with this format and say if I should do one beginner, one intermediate, and one advanced in each genre. Maybe. I don't know. That's just a thought, but I would love to know what you think about that. So let me know in the comments if that's of interest, and also, what kinds of format you would prefer for that video. That will be out on Friday. I also contributed a very secret video to David from Four Corners of the Page, who I don't know if he wants me to mention what the video is about and stuff like that. I know we've been communicating on the chat, and there'll be some wonderful booktubers. So I'll just say stay tuned for that, and I'll keep you posted. Of course, I'll share that when that's out. But I got a chance to do that, and looking forward to contributing more to other people's videos. More interviews and things like that coming for Shelf Talkers. I got to sit down and actually do some reach outs and get those on the calendar. But again, I'll keep you posted as soon as those happen. And those are coming hot and fast, especially once Emmy voting ends and I get a chance to breathe for a little bit. So let's talk about a little bit about the music front. So as I mentioned, I was feeling a little burnt out, but I was still booked to co-host a social mixer for composers and music supervisors, which I did on Tuesday. And actually ended up being really wonderful. I slept all day Monday. I slept part of Tuesday. I read a little bit here in between. And then I went and did the mixer. And actually, that's just what the doctor ordered, literally and figuratively. Like, I felt a lot more equipped to handle the social mania of those mixers. And it was packed. It was packed to the gills. So I'm showing a few images here, but it was really lovely. Connecting with new people and just getting to share the love of our community. It's been a tough 5 years for the music industry, for the entertainment industry, between the pandemic, the strikes, the industry contractions, AI, everything. So it's been tough on a lot of people. So these community events are what keep people going, and energizes us all to face another day. And I feel the same way about our book community. Community is everything, is basically the long and short of it. I worked on an Evil Queen theme for my wife's game, The Magical Rejects, part of her Cursed Magic company offering, the first one that they're developing right now. So I worked a little bit on that. I am planning to start a nature docuseries, and I'm going to stop it right there because I don't want to say too much, but I am going to be meeting with the director this coming week to talk a little bit about creative ideas and stuff. So super excited about that, but more to come on that one. I'm, of course, doing the Emmys push, which is madness. I mean, there's events almost every day. I'm also doing a ton of outreach, organic outreach as well, because I've done a lot of the article stuff now, and a lot of those have come out already. So I'm trying to take some time to now just reach out to people. And I'm amazed at how much people are being responsive of that. And I'm trying to really listen to everybody's works and, just kind of reach out and get to know them as people, because it's kind of part of the fun of this whole push is I never want to be someone who solicits votes. It's just not something that I want to ever do. I like just being me, and me, I'm genuinely curious about other people. So it's fun. It's fun. It's exhausting, but it's fun. So that is going to continue for this week. And of course, some rest and recovery in between. I have kind of revamped my triathlon training plan so that it is kind of a ramp up week now again. So I'm kind of taking my time with it. And so I have heeded people's advice on this Discord and on this channel where they've told me that it's not a race, not a marathon, or it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So, I should take my time with it. So that's what I'm doing. I would love to know from you all, though, like, how was your week? I hope it was better than mine, because I was feeling a little bleary-eyed at sometimes. But would love to know anything interesting happened to you this week. Did you read any cool books? Are you on any of these read-alongs? I would love to know. And to that point, actually, I'll probably make a community post shortly after this video goes up, but I would love to know who's still on the read-alongs. Just do a temperature check, because we're a couple books in each one, and I don't want to necessarily be highlighting a ton ones that people are just not into. If I'm reading them on my own, I'll probably mention them in the roundups and stuff like that, but not make special content for them. I just love to kind of know where everybody's at. And that way I can keep making the channel very relevant for what people want to see, right? So let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of video. I really appreciate you being here. I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. I will see you on the next video on Friday, and have a wonderful, spectacular week of surpassing excellence. Take care.